Hey, welcome back to the Expert Edge. Today, we're having a conversation with Richa Bansal, and she is an exceptional career coach. So, she mainly works with women in leadership roles, getting them into C suite, like highly paid roles in big companies. And she's done that personally. And then she started her coaching business. She's a part of our programs. She's in my highest level, my inner circle experience, and she's just a really good person. She's the real deal, delivers incredible results for her clients. So today's conversation, we're going to explore how she has built her business and the success she's had and some of the strategies she's using to do it. And then also we have a really powerful conversation about there's one mindset shift that I think is just going to change everything for you. When you realize this, I think it makes such a difference in growing a business. And if you haven't made this shift, you would be making far less money than you can make. And this mindset shift is massive. And so we're going to have a conversation with Richa and explore how she's built people's careers and built an incredible career coaching business. So let's get into it. Hey, it's Colin, and you are listening to the Expert Edge podcast. I was a professional speaker for over a decade, and now I focus on helping coaches, speakers, and course creators to speak and sell on virtual and live stages. The Expert Edge podcast is weekly content focused on helping you build your expert business. We cover marketing, storytelling, sales, communication skills, and so much more. Thanks for taking the time to tune in, and make sure you subscribe and follow us on all our social channels so you don't miss a thing. Let's listen to today's episode. Richa Bansal, welcome to the Expert Edge.
Thank you for having me here, Colin.
Now, I've known you for a little while, but I've never said your whole name. And like that, Richa Bansal. I love it.
Yeah, I also just realized that. Richa, like you want to be really rich. And that's
Richa. Be really rich. Now, Richa, I'm excited to have this conversation because you've built an amazing business in the career advisory, career coaching space. And so we're going to have a conversation about how you've built your business and obviously some insights for people who are maybe still, because I know obviously there's mainly coaches who are listening to this podcast, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who are still working in corporate and they want to up level and maybe they want to keep their job. And so we'll have a conversation about all of those things. So, but tell me about what do you do? How do you help people? Just give people some really clear context.
Absolutely. So I run a coaching and consulting company. It's called Pink Careers. Um, our mission is to help elevate women up in leadership. And really, I want to help over 1 million women really step into those leadership roles and close the gender gap we have in the C-suite. The reason why I started this business, and we are coming up, we've actually crossed our 5th year anniversary. So I started the business back in 2020, and I started it when I was already working at Amazon. And the reason I started this business was because throughout my own career, I have almost always found myself to be the only woman in leadership roles, almost always the only woman around the leadership table. For a long part of my career, I spent that in the oil and gas industry. And in the oil and gas industry, there still aren't enough women at those leadership roles. Even when I worked for Amazon, when you look at Andy Jassy's leadership table, when you look at that executive table, especially in operational roles where which hold profit and loss, like those are like more business roles, you don't see a lot of women there. And I think it's time we change that. We talk a lot about it, but that has not yet changed. And I really wanted to do something about it. And I felt like throughout my career, through the support of mentors, through some things that I've done right, maybe not done right, I have learned some things. I had moved up in, mid senior leadership roles. And it's like there is time to share these lessons with other women who may also be stuck in roles and are like looking to find those real practical, tactical, no fluff advice on how to step up in their career. So that's kind of the premise of why Pink Career started and what we do. We actually run a job search coaching program primarily for women and women in tech, where we help them step into those manager, senior manager, director, VP level roles, really build self-confidence, ditch imposter syndrome, learn how to step into deeper executive presence, learn really how to be fearless in their careers. Our program is called the Fearless Hire. And then we also run leadership programs. In fact, Pink Careers runs the largest women's leadership program that is run across the federal government of Canada. So, yeah.
I love that, Richa. So it sounds like you had a real purpose and mission when you first started the business, because obviously running a business, you're going to have challenges, you're going to have problems, you're going to have things you got to work through. So you've obviously got to have a clear why of like why you're running this business. Now, I know that a lot of people who are listening are running coaching businesses, but I also know that just the whole mindset of going to the next level, which you were starting to allude to, of how, women in leadership roles, and I believe that, as a coach, you're in a leadership role, like that is what you're in. I'm curious, across your client base and just what you've seen, what have been some mindset shifts that you feel like people have to make, and maybe even especially women have to make in order to step up into that next level?
One of the biggest mindset shifts that I have seen across the board. I mean, I had to make that when I first when I first started this business. I've grown this business, and honestly, like this is the mindset shift that each one of my client has had to make. It is to go from I am lucky to have the job, or I'm lucky to have this role, and shift into any company is lucky to have me. Like this is the biggest mindset shift that needs to happen, that I am lucky to have this, and go from there to any company is lucky to have me, or any client is lucky to work with me, or any company would want me on their team because they're so lucky to have me. And this mindset shift is so needed, because I feel like excuse me, especially a lot of women that I work with a lot of immigrant women, women of color. And then I think generally, like I've seen, and I'm generalizing for women, I've seen this for guys as well. Many of us, oftentimes, we put all of these big names, right? Like the big companies. I have a lot of clients who want to work for the Amazons, the Googles, the Metas, and we want to put these big names on the pedestal, and we think, oh my god, like they have the upper hand, they're these big companies, and we almost like inadvertently like make us feel down, and we
Mm.
create this imbalance in the way we see ourselves compared to whatever we aspire to. And that creates such a big gap that ultimately translates into imposter syndrome and lack of self-confidence. And that's the bridge we need to cross, that um, it's not that I am lucky to have these roles. It's really like, if I have gone to the big schools, if I have worked for the big companies, or if I work for whatever company, I have made that role amazing through my work. And then what it does is it shifts the power from external to internal, because then you can truly say, okay, I have certain really deep skills and expertise. That is what allowed the role to be expansive. That is what allowed the results to be created. So it shifts the power internally, and then you can start to like kind of break down this imbalance, and you start to see both yourself and the client or the company, like whatever the case may be, as equals. So then you can have conversations of equals.
I love this, Richard, and because I think sometimes people over-index on just tactical strategies, and they don't realize that you can have great tactical strategies, but if you don't make this type of mindset shift, you won't give yourself permission to go for it. You can have all the tactical strategies. Have you seen that happen with people and clients and stuff like that?
I mean, I tell all my clients that mindset is a strategy.
Yeah.
And
Mindset is tactical.
no tactical things are going to work until your mindset is in the right place. So mindset, like having the right mindset, is actually a strategy.
I love that. There's this great quote, one of my favorite quotes in our industries, from Dan Sullivan. And he says, always be the buyer. And so rather than feeling like you're trying to sell something, like even if you're selling yourself in your career or you're selling a coaching program, you're always the buyer. And so, like, when someone's applying to work with you or someone's looking to join your program, it's like you're the one who's buying them, not them buying you. And so I love that shift. Now, obviously, sometimes, what came up for me was like, well, but Richa, is that being arrogant? Is that being like, thinking too big of yourself? What are your thoughts on that? Because I don't think it is. I think that usually the people who are not in that mindset, like if they move towards that mindset of going, I'm valuable, I'm powerful, I'm useful, they're not going to come off like a sociopath.
Absolutely. I think this is such a great question. I remember like one of my mentors who I really respect had asked me this question too when I was kind of talking to her about this this mindset shift that we need to make. And I told her that I have never come across a woman who has made the leap from really being passive and really like undermining themselves to being like arrogant. And so there is this continuum where
So
I actually
true.
have this on my board right now. It's a training I'm going to do in a couple of weeks in my program, where this continuum sort of goes from like submissive to authority to arrogance. Like literally, I have this continuum drawn because I want to talk about this in terms
Wow.
of how your confidence can move. And I find majority of the clients, especially if you have gone through external circumstances that might have broken your confidence in some which way. Maybe you had some personal circumstances. Maybe you went through layoff cycles, multiple layoff cycles. I mean, the market has a way of doing that to you right now. Um, I have often found that the women are in this really passive, submissive mindset where they're really like thinking, oh my God, I'm just so lucky to even hold the job that I have, or I'll be so lucky to get the job. And with this mindset, like they move closer to having that authority mindset where they really like are taking back control. I've not yet seen somebody move to the arrogance mindset. I'm curious.
I agree.
It would be very, very, very interesting if I find somebody move to the arrogance mindset,
Yeah.
but that has not been a problem so
It's the
far.
same thing for me in our business because I'm teaching selling. People get really scared. They're like, I don't want to be salesy. And I'm like, you are so far off the line of being salesy that when you feel salesy, just know that that is not being salesy. That's just actually making an offer. you know?
Absolutely. And I think I've gone through so many cycles as I have built this business, and I've taken over 1,000 sales calls at this point. I still take some sales calls in my business, but most definitely I remember in the early stages of my career when it was just me and I was the team and I was doing sales
Yeah.
and everything else in between. And there were these cycles, and everybody has that. Like you have these months of high where you feel like you're on the top of Mount Everest, and then you have these low. And I remember all these months of lows, I would slip into this whole mindset of, oh my God, I would be lucky to have this client, and I would be lucky to have 5 clients this month, and so on. And what that does is, unfortunately, like it pushes you in that salesy mindset, like it pushes you into that salesy conversation where then you are trying to convince somebody
Mm,
because you feel so scarce in that moment, and you feel, you know, like if I don't get it, then everything like hell will break loose and I will not have a business anymore. And I've
yeah.
gone through so many of cycles of this. Um, that is what really kills sales. Like
Yeah.
if you come across as sales, as you said, you gotta be the buyer always. Or
Yeah.
have
You
always
do.
have that mindset that I'm the buyer. Because you honestly are. They're coming to you because you hold the keys to the kingdom. You have something that they need. They don't know the secret. You know the secret. As long as you believe that you know the secret.
Yeah, you have to believe that you know the secret. I love that. Now, you mentioned your business a little bit. I wanted to discuss this because there's a lot of people out there who would really look up to. I mean, most people I think on this podcast wouldn't be doing the numbers that you're doing. Like you're running $1 million business, and most majority of people probably wouldn't be running that on the podcast and would aspire to be doing that. Now, there's some nuances in what you do that I think from because I know you're a part of our inner circle program and you do some coaching with us in our group, which is just amazing. Um, you've chosen a specific niche, and when I remember when you applied for our inner circle, I looked at your website and I was like, oh, I love the way you've niched your message down and you've also got an elevated avatar. Can you talk to us about like your business model and your sales model at the moment and the niche and how that's impacted your growth, etc.?
Absolutely. So I have like two parts of the business, but really I would talk about the one where it's more of a like a B2C sort of model where we work directly with career professionals for
Sure.
our job search programming. And that's kind of like that brings in about 80% of the revenue in the business. So that's kind of like the primary program. So in way this program is set up, I have so we serve corporate women who are already at least at 10 years of work history. So like they've already maybe have at least 10 years of work experience. So they are a certain kind of like age range. I mean, sometimes like they're often moms. They are at that mid senior level. They might have managed teams already. So anywhere like these manager or director level clients, and then we help them like really step into that next role. Okay. And what that next role could look like for them could be again a director, VP level role, or more like senior, more bigger in scope. in terms of the way our business is established, the program, we run one program. And I had in the past, like, I think I've always run one program. I've experimented with the way that program looks in terms of logistics and delivery and things like that, but I've
Yeah.
almost always run one program. And very early on, I think with one of the mentors that I worked with, I got advised that you gotta, uh, below 1 million, you just really want to contain the number of offers that you have so that it contains the amount of mess that you have to work with, because everything is messy, right? Like all the time you're flying a broken plane. And so I think that advice really worked for me because I've always had one program. And again, it has looked different at different times in the business, depending on what the business needed at the time. But it's one program. It's kind of like a hybrid program. Majority of the delivery is done in group format. So that allows for certain scale to happen. And there are some one-on-one elements to the program, but that's kind of how it's set up. And that one program allows us to really simplify our marketing. So very tight niche allows us to talk to a very, our marketing to be kind of tight. It allows, once we started ads last year, it allowed our ad cost to be fairly contained because because again, when you're targeting a very like tight niche, the messaging could be tighter. I think it has also helped with sales. I get this often because I ask everybody, like, why did you choose me? There are like hundreds and thousands of career coaches. Why would you want to come and work with us? And they say, because you're the only like woman, you look like me, you're an immigrant, you kind of sound like me, and this is a program designed for women, by women. And I think all of that really helps you um, tighten up everything from marketing to sales to operations. So one niche, one message, one program, like everything is just streamlined. And then once you understand, and it takes a long time, for me at least, it took many, many months and I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
But once you figure out how to, with maximum efficiency, sort of run this one niche, one program, one channel. Like we're only on one channel. LinkedIn is the primary channel. Once you kind of like learn all of this up to a million mark, then you can think about, okay, do I need to continue growing this? Or is there like a cap to it? And do I want to add something else to the mix? And then you can repeat the process almost.
Yeah. How are you acquiring clients? What's your client acquisition model?
Yeah, so up until last year, so for a good part of 4 years, our primary acquisition channel was organic. We had one social channel that that I've been fairly active on, which is LinkedIn. I have about 50,000 followers now on LinkedIn. They actually grew rapidly from the start of last year. I had 16,000 followers. The end of last year, we had 45. So
Oh, what happened? Talk to us about that. What did that look like?
January 2025, I hired LinkedIn Ghostwriter to support us. So
That's
essentially,
great.
it,
Yeah.
it was and I think finding the right hire, and that's something we can talk about if that's interesting. But finding the right hire is the key to unlocking your business success after a certain point. And so, beginning of last year, we were at this point where I was not, with everything that was going on in the business, I was not able to be consistent with writing and being present on LinkedIn, and whatever the algorithm requires of you in terms of engagement and whatnot that is needed. And I was not able to do that consistently. So I finally hired a LinkedIn ghostwriter, and there was a good 3 months of very deep hand holding training that was involved. But
Yeah.
that really helped us boost our followership to
So
what.
was she or were they connecting with other people and writing lots of articles and things like that?
So they don't connect with people per se, but basically they just followed my writing style, and we have strict guide. Like I do every week, I meet with them, I review their content, I give them
Yeah.
feedback, we discuss ideas, and we created sort of posting strategy or the type of post that we want to do that attracts a very tight, again, tight type of audience. And so something that I want to highlight, and this may or may not work for everybody, but for us, I have always been very particular about the audience that I want in my ecosystem. And so I really do think the number of likes, the number of impressions can in some ways be vanity metrics if they don't convert into
Yeah.
sales. You might have a very viral post that has 5,000 likes on it, but you might not get even two sales conversations out of it. Versus I believe in this concept of invisible buyer. Like there are people, if there are right type of people,
So
if you put
true.
right type of content, the right type of people with, maybe viewing your content, and when the time is right for them, they will raise their hand. And especially for me, the type of professionals I work with, I think it all starts with really deeply understanding your ICP. Okay. So I deeply understand that my ICP is this working woman who wants to level up. She doesn't want to be very public. She consumes LinkedIn like hell to figure out how to get to the next step. And they will not publicly perhaps engage with your content because they are working. They don't want
Yeah.
to be visible. And so just once you tightly understand your ICP, then you can do things that allow you to build your social channel to work for you. So I deeply understood that like long time ago. And so the type of content that we post may or may not have those likes and impressions. In fact, when we have too many of them, we attract wrong type of people to
Sure.
our to our sales conversations. But when we post the right type of content, then we towards the end we always have this inbound funnel. We ask them to post a keyword and then the DM, and
Yeah.
then we pick up the conversation from there. My sales team picks up the conversation from there, and that's how we've designed our LinkedIn. And that,
Yeah.
like, bringing this hire on was very critical in actually like 3xing the business last year.
I agree. I know for us, we got to a point where I was kind of doing a lot of the marketing. We had like an ads guy who was doing ad hoc stuff, and then but when we made a key marketing hire, the business just like exploded. And
Yeah.
it sounds like similar thing for you is like that outbound delivery, marketing, messaging. But you also did a great job, Richa, in knowing who your avatar is and who and like the intricate details of who they are. Now, your conversion mechanism is you run like a monthly webinar, is that right? And then you move to a call. Like explain that process because a lot of people are interested in that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. So just want to kind of close the conversation that we started in the last question, then I can kind of answer your question around the conversion mechanism. So organic was great when we grew this last year, but one fundamental problem with organic still is that it is not predictable, and social channels change all the time. And so we were finding that with LinkedIn as well. Like there were months that were highs and then the months that were lows. And um, without us changing anything in our strategy, we will see sometimes as the impressions, even from the right type of people, are up and down. So that is very, very difficult for the business once the business reaches a certain size, because now I have payroll expenses, and
Yeah.
so I cannot have this unpredictability in the on the marketing side. So that being said, last year we also started ads, and so ads allow for certain level of predictability to happen once you understand how to run ads, and once you've kind of also figured out your whole sort of funnel and conversion mechanism. So that being said, yes, our primary conversion mechanism is a webinar funnel. We actually have two funnels, but our primary is the webinar funnel. We at this point are attempting to get to a webinar every other week, so
Nice.
fortnightly webinars. What that does, it allows for 2 weeks of ads to run to direct people to our webinar. So I think for now this is what's been working for us.
Right.
And then we also post an organic. We started with, I want to say, 75% organic, 25% ads, but now it's like 25% organic and 75% from ads,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I mean, but I mean, it's a continual balance. But I'll be frank. The conversations I have with people at very high levels, that's their business. Is they're doing 80-70% ads, 20% organic. Like it's pretty normal. So, but I can appreciate it. Yeah, but yeah. So talk to us about this funnel, this webinar funnel, and it's the same presentation every 2 weeks, right?
This presentation has not changed in 3 years. I mean, yes, some of the
Yeah.
details of the presentation might have changed, but honestly, just like a shameless plug about you, I think I found you 3 years ago, maybe through a podcast episode I listened to, and then I was following you in 2024. I bought SSA, the standalone program that you
Yeah.
had, the
Self
DIY
Stage
program that you
Academy. Yeah.
had, Self from Stage Academy. And at that time, I had already had a presentation, because some of the previous mentors I was working with, they all had told me that you should drive people to a sales call, then from sales call they should
Yeah.
convert.
Sure.
And I just really like didn't want to do sales calls. I mean, that being said, we still do sales calls,
Yeah. You
but
still get sales calls. Yeah. Yeah.
um, for me, like I felt like there needed to be sort of like some bigger touch point. If I ever want to get myself out of the primary salesperson, I hold the brand, right?
Yeah.
So there still needs to be ample time with the whoever wants to come into a program, with me. And the webinar is like this 90 minutes to an 2 hour of uninterrupted time that somebody has to get familiar with my concepts, with my brand and whatnot. So I want to say like 2.5, 3 years ago, I created this webinar, which is called Recession Proof Your Career.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I'm teaching you. I'm not trying to get you a job. I'm teaching you how to recession proof your career. And that is really, I kid you not, like 80% of the presentation has remained the same. The testimonials change, obviously. Some of the content has changed and streamlined inside, but it's the same presentation. I teach you 3 steps or 5 steps to getting your job.
Yeah.
And through that, essentially, like I'm talking through your program, talking to my program. One thing I learned from SSA was this concept of infusion selling. So when I had gotten that program, I think the first training I saw was infusion selling. And I loved like how you use testimonials. Like one of the techniques was using testimonials to talk about results in an organic way. So you're not like, it's like not testimonial stuffing, but they were very organic points where you're like talking about a strategy and a testimonial that supports that strategy. And I think that really, really works. It still works. And I still have that presentation that I.
Yeah. And this is what's something so powerful is what most people, truly don't understand is if once you get that presentation converting and working, you rarely have to change it. I mean, you might change the title, maybe every 2 years or something, or some little tweaks, but it's phenomenal when you get something working. It truly is a cornerstone of growing your business. In terms of the actual speaking and the presenting yourself, what insights have you learned in terms of, because you've been delivering this webinar or this presentation for a long time. I'm curious, what lessons could you share from your own experience of delivering the presentation with getting more engagement, getting more booked calls, like that whole process?
I can share a couple of like strategies and maybe a couple of
Please.
mindset things that have helped me as well. So one of the biggest strategies that I think I learned from your program, but then I've also seen, some others, like as I followed some of the big, like Amy Porterfield, for example, some of the strategies one of the strategies that really worked is engaging the audience through and through and getting those micro buy-ins. I think that was another strategy I learned from infusion selling. So getting these micro buy-ins or like little yeses along the way has been so, so powerful. And so there are multiple slides along this 90-minute session that I do where I would have them, okay, give me a yes if you resonate with this, like give me a yes. And then the whole like transition piece that you teach around, you do your content and then I kind of like stop and I say, and then I would like take a drink and I would just ask, okay, so what really stood out to you from the session? And they would like tell me why they want to work with me, right? Like essentially they're telling us like why and what stood out. And then I would take them through this whole future pacing on, okay, like now see yourself 3 months from now, like, and then 3 weeks from now and 3 months from now and 18 months, 12 months from now.
Yeah.
And then would ask them, okay, who is committed to that future? Give me a yes if you're committed to the future. And then like, there's like, yes. And I think that has been like a game changer.
The future pace transition. Yeah, it's one of our transitions. I love it.
Game changer. So I think that is a strategy that is like that works. The other strategy, I don't know if maybe I learned this from Stacey Driscoll's session that I saw, but one of the strategies that she does is when somebody books a call from the webinar. So from the webinar, we send them to an application, and then from the application, basically they fill the application, they book a call, and then as soon as they book a call, my setter in the background will say, Julie, you're booked. Congratulations. Or Asha, you're booked. Congrats. And so we like do that and we see like 30, 40
in the chat. Yeah.
So I think that has been very interesting.
That's cool. Yeah, that live thing of either they come back and say I'm booked, or you could read it out and say Jenny's booked and Jonah's booked and all that. I love that. These are great strategies. Anything else? What about just like the whole sales process? What's been some lessons you've learned with? Obviously, you're going to book a call. What's been some lessons with getting qualified leads on the calls and getting them to show up? I'm curious about that for you.
Yeah, so we obviously have a whole like sales sequence in the back, like email sequence in the background and everything. But our show up rates are actually pretty good. Like our show up rates, when I was leading the calls, they were, because again, I'm the founder, my show up rates were closer to 90, 95%.
Yeah.
But even with my like now I have a sales team, I have a closer. So with them also our show up rates are fairly good. One of
Mm.
the reason I think our show up rates are good is because we send text messages,
Yeah.
we confirm calls. Our team member reaches out and then confirms call. And I think one of the biggest one is we ask the client to send their resume. So we'll send an email and say, hey, you haven't sent us a resume yet. Like send us your resume. And basically that the everybody wants to be like treated as a human. Okay, nobody wants to talk to any salesperson, they want to talk to a human. So if you can show that we are vested in you, which we truly are, like we look at their resumes, we look at their LinkedIn, we prep ourselves. And so if we can show that we are putting time in this and you're not just another number for us, you're really like a person we want to help, um, that like changes the game on show up rates. And so if you just ask them, hey, like you still haven't sent us your resume, then they will send you resume, and then we say, okay, let us know if there's anything else like that will help us with context around our call, and then send the card, like they are going
Wow.
to show up.
Yeah, they got like a real buy-in. Oh my gosh, that's insane. And I'll say this, Richa, you know, and this was one of the reasons I wanted to work with you more, is you're the real deal. Like there's no smoke and mirrors. Like you deliver what you say, you genuinely care. And I know we've had many conversations of like just really stressing over like making sure you're delivering for your clients at the level you want to deliver at. Like you genuinely care about people and show up for people and serve them like nothing else. And to me, you can have all the great marketing strategies in place, but if you're not really showing up for your clients and genuinely care, like in the end, it shows up. And so I want to acknowledge you in that. Like if I have a friend who who's a leader, who's an executive, who wants to up level their role, they're a female, I'm like sending them to you. Like it's like, are you referable? Basically. And so I wanted to acknowledge you for that, and in that, because of how you showed up.
I appreciate you. I actually want to share an example. It is like so like it kind of like moved our whole team to tears. Um, 3 months ago, we had somebody who had applied to work. They had come to the webinar, they had applied to work with us. And it just so happened in the sales process that they did not move forward. So my closer, my excuse me, my appointment setter, like she reached out to them again because we try to also like close the loop. And we asked like, what happened? Like, what did we miss? Like, what can we help you with? And she basically, the lady gave us feedback that she didn't feel like we were senior enough, like we were capable enough to support them. So maybe we had missed something in the sales process in terms of how we presented our ability to support her. And then my appointment setter was like, no, like, can I help you? Can I set up a call with Richa and let us like give us another chance to sort of close this gap? And for like to her credit, she said, yes, why not? And then I had a chat with her, and then we closed her. So when we closed her, literally like she was a single mom, 50-year-old, did not think she was capable of the roles that she was kind of gonna get. In 10 weeks of starting the program, she landed a director role. And then they offered her the compensation above what was put on the job description.
Wow.
So she made like over a 300K offer, and then I helped her negotiate some more that she didn't even believe was possible. And then she was so thankful. And then I sent that note to my appointment setter and said, hey, you would love to know that this lady that you helped close like got an offer. And my appointment setter said that, thank you so much for sharing this with me. It made me reaffirm a learning that I had, that our job is to fight for the prospect. And I'm so glad I fought for the prospect. And so I think it is so important to not see this person as a number, because at the end of the day, if you care and you fight for the prospect, in sales, our job is to fight for the prospect. Like, I always think if I'm going to do a sales call, I really don't care if they join or not. Like, it's up to the person if they join or not. But I have done my job if I leave them with the aha moment. Like, I leave them with the insight, like change their perspective. If I change their perspective, I've done my job. Right, because my job is to fight for the prospects. It is so uncomfortable to have a chat with a stranger and spill your guts out, right?
It
So
is.
they took that courage to come talk to me or my team. So it is my job to fight for the prospect.
It's so true. I love that idea of like fighting for their future. because, like a lot of the time they're in a lot of uncertainty. They're in a lot of confusion and fear, and you have to show up with the certainty and fight for their future. I love that. I love that. In terms of your business and kind of what you're really excited about right now, and obviously in the economy, there's a lot of uncertainty going on right now, and sometimes people will say, "Oh, well, that's harder to grow," but you've continued to grow and fight for your prospects. I'm curious about what you're excited about in terms of working on in your business, refining, taking to the next level? Like, what are some things that you're excited about with serving your clients at the moment?
Yeah, and so for me, like, our business crossed seven figures last year, and it is on track to kind of grow another like 30, 40, 50% this year. But I think really I'm at this point where I have to decide whether I keep everything like close to me, but then it's becomes, I feel like that's a very selfish concept as well, because then it is a business centered around me, or I can grow my team. If I need to grow any bigger than this, then I have to grow a team of the right people who hold the same mindset. And so, what I'm really excited about and what I'm really working through at this point is how do we scale, and scale just mean like how do we sort of grow with growing the right team that cares as deeply for the prospects as like I do, but at the same time, as you grow and you scale, you do justice to the business as well. Because when you are a solopreneur, you have great margins in the business and all of that, but then you also have like a fancy job. And if
Yes.
you really want to have a true business with leading profit margins, because I have always wanted to have a profit first business, because not a
Yeah.
profit business, what are we even doing here? And so
Exactly.
what I'm really excited about is figuring out this whole challenge of how do you grow a team in a way that maintains the same level of service for the clients while also maintaining leading profit margins for the business.
Yeah. Beautiful. It's like a whole nother season, a whole nother level of the growth. And your goal is a million women. Like you're not going to reach a million women doing it by yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I think
Yeah.
like you have to also keep your mission in mind on why are you doing this. And at some point I do feel I think this is worth talking about. When we had a smaller business or like some of the initial phases of the company, like last year up until last year, I do think some of the purpose was more internal than external. Even though we had an external purpose and we said like, we want to like this external purpose of helping women step up in leadership, and that was true. But at the same time, I feel like there is this some threshold, and for each person, this threshold might be different. But everybody has a threshold below which you're worried more about yourself.
Mm.
And somehow, like in January when I met you and I showed you like the PNL, after that, like my brain said, okay, like this is good. Like we can get to that, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the whole like internal focus started to shift, or at least start to uh, become a little wishy. I was like, okay, but like this is
Mm.
okay. So
Mm.
I'm gonna be okay. So all right. So then what next?
Yeah.
And then I think that's when the purpose truly shifts to what
Uh,
you originally started.
Yeah, I love this. Now, I'm sure, Richard, first of all, I wanted to thank you for sharing all the insights on your business, the insights in your career. I know that this conversation would have inspired a lot of people who listen to it. But I also know that, there would be, like I'd mentioned before, I was like, man, if someone is in that position and you're the right person for them to help, I'm like, send them to Richard. So I'm curious, what would be the best way if someone's listening and they are actually still in a corporate role and they want to stay in a corporate role and they want to go to the next level? What would be the next best step for them to connect with you and have a conversation?
Yeah, the best step to connect with me would be on my LinkedIn. So if you search by Richa Bansal, you will find me. And
Great.
then send me a connection request. Please add a note. If you just send a connection request, it'll go in the ether. But send a connection request. Say that you found me on Colin's podcast, and we
Yeah.
will be able to connect with you there. I post a lot of great daily tactical content. I think there's enough fluff and AI generated crap in this world already. So
Yeah.
we post very tactical content on a daily basis that literally is the stuff that has helped our clients, because I can also appreciate not we can't work with everybody. So
Yeah.
go follow us on LinkedIn. And then we also run a masterclass where I cover exactly what we do with our clients. that has helped them get results in this market. And so you will find a link to that masterclass on my LinkedIn, as well as Colin, in the show notes.
I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes. Richa, you're amazing. I love that you're a part of my world and our programs. You inspire our members. You inspire me with your mindset and your thinking and just always going to the next level. I love how authentic you are. And it's just a pleasure having you in our world. So thanks so much for coming on the Expert Edge.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. It was such a pleasure.
So good.